Welcome, YouTubers. You're here with Mr. Land, flipped classroom here for U.S. History in 8th grade. Kids with the notes, make sure you write down your title at the top and your era. Pause the video, write those down right now. You got them. The title of today's lesson is Columbus, Polo, and the New World. Our era is the exploration, colonization era. You wrote it down. Let's go, YouTube, and let's learn a little bit here today. Now, before we get into this, a little bit of housekeeping, a few little details for the kids that are doing their answers with me. Make sure you listen well, all right? If you're listening, you've got the stories coming out from me, and you're catching them well with your ears, right? You're pausing and you're rewinding. If you miss it and you don't hear it, rewind it. Pause it, look at those visuals that I'm presenting. Last but not least, check that note page. You see the Cornell notes. Follow that note page. Mr. Land's helping you to guide you as you go along. Now let's start with our vocabulary top left. So I'm going to ask you to take a look on the definitions are on the right. I'm going to present those words. We just want the words. Just write down those words right now in the space provided. Hit that pause button, get those words. Okay, you got the words. Let me pronounce them one time. Exploration, pull factors. Number 3, Northwest Passage. Number 4, West Indies. Number 5, economics. You got the vocab? Yes. Boom. We're going. Let's go. Now, before we get into the gist of the lesson, what do we want to achieve as a goal when we learn here with this one video lesson? We want to be able to do these two things. Number 1, I can identify the era of history. Well, we sort of mentioned it at the beginning, but I'm going to mention it again. We need to know that era. Number 2, I can explain reasons for exploration. Yes, that's what we want. So we'll check at the end of the video. Let's get in. Take a look here on the top right. Do you see that little blue square? Mr. Land's kind of letting you know that question number 1 has an answer right here on this slide. So who do we have here? We have the man who starts it all, Mr. Marco Polo. No, he's not just a game that you play in a swimming pool. He's an actual person. He's a Venetian, meaning that he is from Venice. That is an explorer. He's an explorer. He explores or journeys. He's also a merchant. He's dealing in merchandise. Now, he sold goods to make money. Now, his story is famous beyond and beyond. There should be movies about him. As a matter of fact, there's a Netflix series that's pretty good. Now, Marco Polo comes from Europe. Remember our continents from our lesson. Now, Europe has many countries. Now, Marco Polo being a Venetian, he's from Venice. He is from the country of Italy. There's Italy. See the little boot on the screen? You can pause it and take a look at it. Now, Marco Polo, he is 17 years old when he and his uncle and his father leave Italy. Now, what is it that they leave for? Well, it's their jobs that they're leaving for. They are merchants, so they are going to make what is generally considered the greatest journey on foot / camel / donkey / horse of all time. They're going to travel into the continent of Asia. See the humongous continent of Asia right there? Now, their journey is going to take over 20 years for them to complete. Now, what is it that is driving this journey of theirs? Look at the box there. It's economic reasons that people want during that time because Asia has a lot of goods, a lot of products that Europeans can't get. Now, that dollar sign means that Europeans can get those goods and bring them back to Europe. And back then there was no Amazon, so we can't just order one click, boom, prime shipping. That didn't happen. You actually had to go there to get the good and bring it back. So Marco and his family, they make this journey that lasts over 20 years. Now, you see the path there that I drew out there in black? I mean, I did it as best I could. That's kind of their pathway that they travel from Europe to Asia all the way around and back. There's so much to tell here in his story. Notice that in the picture, he's holding a book called Il Milione. That is that's the title of his book. It stood for A Million Lies. By the time he gets back to Italy, he forgets how to speak Italian. His family doesn't even recognize him anymore. And he writes a book of his journeys that is still considered today the standard for all adventurers and explorers. Now, what is pulling people? Those are called pull factors. What are the circumstances that are pulling people from their homes to leave? Well, pull factors are causing the Europeans to come forth to Asia to trade goods. Now, they want to go and come and get those goods. So these are the economics. I'm going to use that word in class a lot. The economics is making money. It's pulling those people out to Asia to get those goods. And those opportunities are what's driving the markets, driving the money in Europe, because we want those goods. What kind of goods, you ask? Well, good question. Well, silks, because royalty and rich people wear beautiful robes. There's tea, which people drink, which comes in leaves. Spices to make food taste better. Asia had wonderful spices. Gemstones, which can be sold for jewelry, make lots of money, which Marco's family did as well. Porcelain for glassware, for the home. Jade, another gemstone, which was highly valuable. Look at that list right there. There's so much goodness in Asia to bring back to Europe. Now, Marco is going to write that book, and that book is going to influence a lot of explorers to explore because they want those goods, that pull factor of the economics. So they're going back through Europe and Asia, back and forth, right? Now, this is going to create an effect. European explorers are going to want to get to Asia faster. Why? Economics, making that money because they want those goods. So this leads us to use a little ship. Now, we use a ship in exploration because that ship is the symbol of exploring. Back then, there were no cars, there were no airplanes, there was no tech. Ships were the way. So those little ships represent that. Now, Asia being on one side, or east map on the map, that means that there's going to be a movement west. Now, that leads us to this guy. You know him, Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus sailed for Spain. We know all the details. We'll talk more in class about it, but I don't want to focus on the details because there's a lot to be interested by here by Christopher Columbus, even though he is considered kind of a bad man. Now, he is going to push that journey not just to the east, but he's going to push it to the west. Now, he's significant because it is his explorations that lead others like the explorers of old to find a faster passage to Asia. So he's not going to go the direction of Marco Polo. By the way, Mr. Columbus had a book that had a copy of that book. He wants to go to Asia, but he doesn't want to go the normal way. There's a whole lot of circumstances why he can't do that. He's going to try to go through the West. Now, his journey is going to lead him to a different continent. Now, no, he was not the first to arrive in North America, but it is through his explorations that leads Europeans to say, we can get to Asia, but we're just going to go the other way. And not only that, once they realize how much North America has to offer them and their economics, it makes other Europeans and their countries want to have this piece of land that is not inhabited and not owned by any of the big country powers in the world at the time. So Christopher Columbus gets credit because he opens the door to those European explorations to North America. Now, here's a map of his journeys. So Columbus starts off in Spain, which is just right here at the western tip. He makes 4 journeys. His first journey in 1492 lands him here at those islands just south of Florida. Do you see it on the map? Now, Columbus calls these islands the West Indies. Now, he thought he was in the country of India, which is in Asia. He thought he had made it all the way around the world. So when we look at the map, he thought he was here. Notice that that's the continent of Asia, but he really was there. He was in a place that he called the West Indies, which is not technically India at all. There's nothing Indian about it. And he called the people there, guess what he called them? He called them Indians, which is totally incorrect. As a matter of fact, till his deathbed, he would not admit that he had not landed in India. He really did believe that he had landed there. So this leads us to the Northwest Passage. Now, explorers were searching for that route, that sea route that was going to get them to Asia fast. Now, they were following Christopher Columbus's lead. Now, unfortunately, for the most part of those centuries, beyond Christopher Columbus, no explorer found the Northwest Passage to get to Asia. Look at the map. The Northwest Passage goes up through Canada and through the ice. So all those icebergs were in the way. A lot of explorers died unsuccessfully trying to find that sea route to get to Asia. It wasn't until 1903 when someone finally did it on a little boat. So Columbus, he didn't find the passage, and neither did anybody else. But he did find what we will now call a new world. So on the next video, we will talk New World. Kids, If you can answer those questions, can you identify why economics was such a huge pull reason for Europeans to explore? And can you connect Columbus's travels to the race that leads Europeans for new land? There you go. That's what we got for you. Thanks for being here. Hope you got your notes. I'll see you in class and on the next vid, everybody.